Chapter 13 Fireworks. The sun was thrilled to watch the fireworks show, so down it hurried to lie below the stretching canopy of nighttime black, just like the children watching on their backs. While firemen set up the aerial shells, some children played with sparkler sticks and spelled their names as if they waved a magic wand, bursting with stunning sprays of brilliant blonde. But anyone who holds a sparkler stick will learn that when the embers pop and flick, and molten flecks like comets take to flight, some land upon your hand in burning bites. Such an experience was taking place out where the boys completed the sack race. And Terence said to them with moan and wail, "I caught the daggum devil by the tail." Both Caroline and Clancy laughed, but knew his pain since they were kindle bitten too. The enjoyment, though, of sparklers in the dark was worth the singe of a sporadic spark. Thomas replied, "You act like it a Roman candle. A little sparkler stick too hot to handle? How about I put her out between your eyes?" Two sudden thuds were heard and caused surprise. The double thuds were the familiar sound, a hat knocked off, then plopping on the ground. They turned. A face was lit by sparkler light. Blaine McShay had come to pick a fight. They held their sparklers out like daggers drawn, as upward shadows stretched the features on his gruesome face to even look more cruel. His eyes were hollow graves, just like a ghoul. Behind McShay were standing other phantoms, Walsh and Brother Sullivan in tandem, whose faces barely showed an evening shroud. The dazzling sparkers dimmed. The light went out. When Blaine retrieved the hat that lay in dust, he pinched it by the brim in sheer disgust and said, repulsed, "Hey, Maury, lose your hat?" Terence reached for it. "You gimme that." Blaine laughed and jerked the hat away in time. He held it higher than Terry's hand could climb. Then Thomas moved his brother with his arm as if to shield him from potential harm. He said, "I'm only gonna ask you once, McShay. You give her back." "Who'd want it anyway?" He tossed the hat like he was dealing poker. Thomas took a step to draw in closer. He said, "All right, McShay, now knock off mine." "You's acting tough in front of Caroline?" "Well, if you think I's acting," Thomas said, "then test me out and knock her off my head." Blaine replied, "This is your sister's fight. That there's your yellow sister Terry, right?" Since Clancy knew that Terence would attack, he grabbed him like a bear would from the back. Igniting like a sparkler, Terence sprayed with cursing burns as fiery threats were made. And Terence spoke with the dexterity of one who's expert in vulgarity. Such foul speech could cause an ear to wrench, what Caroline would classify as French. But to the Georgia boys, this language was referred to as some good old-fashioned fighting words. If left to boys, the outcome of this tension would certainly be a fight without prevention, like fireworks in flight with fuses lit. They waited for the pop of fists to hit. But what they heard was not the sound of fists, or twisting arms until someone submits. A sound not made by any boy or man. A girly huff, then crack, a smacking hand. Within that evening's dusky grayscale, where shapes were blurred of finer detail, the girl had moved covertly into place, and Caroline smacked Blaine across the face. McShay was silent, smoldering and stunned, since in a single act the fight was done. On such a night, where fireworks would snap, the loudest one came from a female slap. The time arrived for the fireworks to start, so Tom and Terence ran back to their cart, but Clancy walked with Caroline to where the doctor parked his carriage for the fair. While walking, Clancy said, "You whacked him good. she said. "It's nothing that a lady should be made to do, but if it must be done, then make sure that there's only need for one." "One was enough to make him wobble weak. You bruised his pride more than you bruised his cheek." "My mother's turning over in her grave. It's not the way she'd want me to behave." Clancy mustered courage to inquire. "What happened?" "They perished in a rail car fire. I was pulled out and saved. Not Mom and Dad." So he took off his hat. "That awful sad." A silence fell on Caroline. The only sound were their uneven steps upon the ground. Her boots, his feet, awoke the sleepy dust that lay in trampled grasses, dry as crust. She tried to stop the image in her mind, while Clancy searched for words but couldn't find a single one that seemed appropriate. And so he shared, "Of loss, I know a bit. My brother passed last fall. It seems so strange how everything goes on, but all has changed. It kind of like it ain't even real, you know? Can't figure what to say or feel." She said, "I'm sorry. Loss. It's just so hard. The wound is ever fresh, yet we are scarred. Sometimes I think they're just on holiday, and soon they're coming home from far away. I tell myself that Jake is just off fishing. When he get back, he'll take me swimming. He couldn't fish for nothing anyhow." "You reckon that they's up in heaven now?" "Of course. They bask in clouds and streets of gold." "I hope he found hisself a swimming hole and catched hisself a whopper of a fish." She sighed and said, "That is a lovely wish. They say a wish that's built on faith and hope is what will help the mourning live and cope. Though I am troubled, stricken to the core, it's on my granddad that I worry more. He's all the smiles and seems a jolly soul, but cries at night as if his tears console. But I escape to books within my hands, like Alice searching for her wonderland. My pa's broke too, and Mama's always crying. But I can't cry, not even when I was trying. It's like I... The word just wouldn't come. In unison they softly stated, "Numb." They looked at one another as they had when they first met, and though they both were sad, they shared a smile because they found it good to simply know that someone understood. They reached the doctor's carriage where he sat, and resting next to him the doctor's hat. His lantern was blown out, the only light was embers glowing as he puffed his pipe. The girl in jest, "Am I now obsolete? It seems your hat has commandeered my seat." The doc replied, "He's been a chum to me, but still I much prefer your company." And when he saw the boy, he said, "Macree, forgive the badinage and pleasantries. To understand y'all's like chewing gristle. I's loster than a catfish asked to whistle." Although at first the country boy was puzzled, the doctor and the girl became befuddled. Even though they both were speaking English, colloquial tongues were daunting to distinguish. Doc said, "A chum's a friend, not little bits of chopped up scraps for calling in the fish. To speak of chums, where's Boone? At home?" "He's settin' with Mama, so she ain't alone. Over yonder selling pecans out the cart?" Doc said, "It's odd to see you two apart." Clancy smiled. Doc said, "Well, won't you stay and watch? They say the show this year will be top-notch." Before he answered, Clancy looked her way, and Doc reiterated, "Won't you stay?" The look she gave him and the doctor's offer made him the catfish drawn to chummy water. But Clancy answered, "Reckon I should go. But thank you, Doc. Y'all enjoy the show." The doctor said, "I'm sure you're right. I'm sure they long to be with you tonight. Please send my warm regards to Rose and Red." The doctor puffed his pipe before he said, "I always feel like I'm a hypocrite, a traitor. Benedict Arnold Iscariot. Just think, an Englishman who celebrates his own defeat, which this commemorates. What would the king, our Albert Edward, say if he saw me this Independence Day? The irony would likely be too much for you to watch the fireworks with us. A rebel you and a defector I, together, on this 4th day of July." He puffed his pipe, amused, but Clancy saw beneath his humor he harbored something raw. The sky exploded with a glitter ball. He tipped his hat. "Well, happy 4th, y'all." Clancy walked with starbursts overhead. They laced the heavens with their golden threads and boomed like thunderstorms with burning rains, as if confetti fluttering in flames. The lifeless smoke that drifted as it fell reminded Clancy of cicada shells that held the form of what was once alive, like empty husks now clinging to the sky. He reached into his pocket and withdrew her silky handkerchief of baby blue. His fingers brushed against Chantilly lace and brought it slowly closer to his face. The boy's intent was not to wipe his nose. Instead, he whiffed the hanky like a rose, and Clancy filled his nostrils with the scent of her perfume to sate his heart's content. It smelled like wildflower fields, with hints of citrus and the spice of peppermint, a smell so good and pure it overpowered the thick sulfuric smoke of gunpowder. Just then a screeching skyrocket shot and screamed as if a banshee blew its top. It pierced the air, an arrow trailed by light that summoned hound dogs howling in the night. He felt that too familiar wave of shame, knowing he'd have to bear the brunt and blame of leaving Boone so long. Clancy ran, rehearsing reasons he would tell the man. He slowed to see his parents sitting there, as paint was splashed against the evening air, and dripped its colors like the stars were drenched, to find them cuddled on the wagon's bench. On Red's right shoulder Rose rested her head, as if it were a pillow from her bed, and gazed bedazzled, thoroughly enthralled, their fingers laced and clasped into a ball. It was as if they were that pair of loons that twined their necks beneath the summer moon. Their eyes were wide with wonder, motionless, and free of grief, without a note of stress. Within that moment, both of them were young. Before the pain and pressures had begun, before responsibility's demands, before routines replaced their grandest plans, before the constant creep of age had closed, before their flaws and faults had been exposed, before resentment for promises unmet and wounding words that hearts could not forget. It was the way that Clancy wished to view the show with Caroline, alone, the two of them with Boone, caressing, holding hands, perhaps a kiss, spontaneous yet planned. Boone wagged his tail at Clancy standing there, and ran to him, which made his folks aware. His mother said, "Come on now, Clancy, hurry! Come on, the grand finale's about to flurry." They climbed up to the bench, and 4 were won. The volleys burst as brilliant as the sun, below the dancing fireflies afield, and for a moment the Macrees were healed.